Hello, everyone.
Welcome to the Spirit Lounge podcast with me, David.
And me, Glenda.
And we are psychic mediums from both sides of the pond.
I'm in Australia.
And I'm in the UK.
And we're joining forces to discuss and talk about the world of psychics, mediumship, and all things spiritual. We might even throw some random life topics in there too.
So come with us now on our podcast journey. Let's see what's happening in the Spirit Lounge for today's episode. Well, hello there, listeners, and welcome back to the Spirit Lounge. I'm here in the lounge, although virtually, with our Glenda in Australia. Hello, Glenda.
Hi, David, and hello, listeners.
How are you doing, love?
Yeah, good. It's been a long week, and it's only Monday.
I know the feeling. Last week was so busy. I was like, I hope this week is a little bit calmer than it was last week. But, you know, you've got to pay the bills somehow, isn't it?
That's right. That's
That's
right.
it.
And I have to have a giggle because one of my clients said to me, I laugh like Julia Roberts on the podcast.
That's why I laugh like that. My dirty old laugh, as it gets called. I get my laugh from my nan on my dad's side.
Do you?
We'll have a similar laugh on that side, yeah. That cackle, or whatever.
Yeah. Your
Whatever you
cackle
want,
makes
whatever.
me laugh. You get me going. Oh my God.
Well, if we don't laugh, we'll cry, eh? So it's better to laugh,
That's it.
and that's it. Well,
Exactly.
hopefully you won't cry in this episode, and I'll have a bit of a laugh at the same time, because it's this episode today, people, hopefully will help those of you who are starting out a mediumship, or you're working on your evidence and you're wanting to improve and things like that. Because we're going to talk about evidence, but we're going to break it down into just in this episode and talk about the names, because we could be here for hours and hours just talking about evidence in general. So we're going to do a couple of episodes based on different pieces or different types of evidence. And this episode, we're going to talk about names. And I think it seems to be at the minute a bit of a hot topic out there in the mediumship community. I know fellow medium Hannah McIntyre, she's done a couple of episodes on this as well. So we're going to give our 2 pence worth on it as well. And look, we've had a number of different guest mediums on the podcasts over the past, couple of months or whatever, and they've all been great, but they've all had their own views and opinions, obviously, on different subjects, different topics, including evidence and names and bringing names through in readings as well. And look, I always say that everyone's experience is their own, and although we've had some more well-known mediums on the podcast as well, I do think that when it comes to evidence and what we expect as to give as evidence is also relative to our experience with it. So if you are a medium that's only been doing this work for 5 years, then your experience with evidence and your expectations of evidence is going to be very different to someone who's been doing the work for 25 years. So we need to keep that in mind as well when we're talking about this. And so again, it's going to be a usual open and honest conversation, given our own opinions based on our experience and our thoughts as well. So this is just our viewpoint on giving names in a reading. So, Glenda.
Yes, David.
What? Now, look, we've both got slightly different experiences here, and I'll talk about mine. We're going to talk about yours as well. What is your experience? Let's talk about this first with giving names in a reading. Do you or don't you?
When I first started, I had that many names, and then all of a sudden it dried up. So go figure. Now
Oh,
it's
interesting.
hit and miss. So I'm not one to be fazed by it. I'm not one that needs to have names. Sometimes I get names, sometimes I don't. I can't say that I get them in every reading. To me, the way I see it, and this is my personal opinion, is if I was to meet you and we were standing there with a bunch of people and Hi, this is Jane, this is John, this is Mary. Do you know what? 2 seconds later, I would not remember your name. I I always say I have ADHD. I cannot retain a lot of things. I don't retain names. It's not one of my things. So to me, I might not get names from spirit. If I get it, if I hear it clearly, I'm going to give it. But I'm not going looking for it. It's not one of my tick off things that I've got to get. If spirit feels it's necessary, sometimes when I am kind of going through the evidence and breaking it down to work out who that spirit person is or who it's for, I might hear a name. Spirit might give me a name. But other than that, I don't sit there going, okay, spirit, who am I talking to? Who do I go? I don't. I've always let it unfold organically. I've never gone through a hit and tick thing that you have to get these sort of things in a reading. I just kind of open up and go, okay, let's have a conversation. What do I need to give? What's important today? So that's the way I work. If you kind of get that.
I get that. But so, do you think that, so this might be a really obvious question because you think you've kind of answered it. Do you think it's important that we give names in a reading or not?
I don't. If I was only personally, because if I was going to have a reading done, I am not going to walk away and go, oh my gosh, she got my name, or she got my mum's name, or she got such and such, or he got this and that. I'm actually going to be more focused on what comes through as proof of life after death. That, my loved ones are around me, that they're hearing everything, they're seeing everything. That's more important than a name to me.
And that's a good point. And we're going to talk about the expectations of a sitter at towards the end of the podcast. I think it's a very important thing
Yeah,
to talk about there, definitely. And it's interesting that you talk about you used to always get names and that you don't get them as much. I'm the
no,
opposite. So when I first
see,
started, I didn't get names at all. Because I don't remember it unless I was forced to when I was when I was in the development circle. But I never got names, and it's not until I developed more that I started to get them. So it's so people can see, hopefully at home, and that we're all different. We're all going to experience mediumship in general in different ways anyway. But our evidence will also be different as well because we're not the same. We're not these spiritual robots where we're trying to be a carbon copy of the next medium. That's not what it is. So that's what I said at the beginning, that our experience with different types of evidence is relative to our, I guess, again, to our experience doing the work. So that's just an interesting point there to point out. And another thing to think about, and I always say this anyway, and actually most mediums say this, so which is why I think there's a lot of hypocrisy out there as well, because people say one thing and they then say in the next breath they say another. And it's like, oh,
mm,
you just contradicted yourself there.
yeah,
Um, because if we talk about how evidence works without going into that too much, I know and you know that um, spirit uses our frame of reference and our life
mm,
experience to give us the evidence that they want to give us.
yeah,
And so, like for me, as you know, my sense of direction is absolutely shit. Right, I need a sat nav to get around a supermarket. I'm just honestly, I know my south, my east, and my west, but actually directions as a whole, I get completely lost. And so I know that that feeds into my mediumship, which is another
mm,
reason, without going off topic, is why I don't necessarily go direct when I'm doing platform because I don't know where I'm going. Because I'm not
yeah,
looking at where I'm going. I'm just paying attention to what I'm spirit putting in my head. And so I think, again, like you said there, your life experience has taught you that you don't retain names. So if that's
mm,
what your life experience is in general, then why would you be an expert at giving names in a reading? Do you know what I mean? So I think we need
Yeah.
to think about that kind of thing as well, and that we're not going to be great at getting all different types of evidence. Because something else you said there I want to pick up on is that you said you let the information come in organically. And funny enough, when I was thinking about this doing this episode yesterday, when I was writing some notes down, which I keep looking at,
Mm.
is that in my head I also said I want to do this organically.
Yeah.
So you've kind of validated what I said. And what we mean by that, people, is when it comes to receiving evidence from spirit, we are receiving. We are not going and asking them to give us X, Y, and Z. We can do that in psychic readings because you're asking your client, okay, what do you want to know about? But in mediumship
Mm.
readings, it should be organic, it should flow, it should be, you should be giving what spirit are putting into your mind. Sometimes they give a name and sometimes they don't. Sometimes you'll pick up on a name and sometimes you won't. Sometimes you feel a name, sometimes you won't. But it depends on what I always say is what spirit want to give you and what they think is the most important thing to give you at that moment. And if we say that because spirit are talking to us, they should be able to give us a name, well then you can apply that same logic to everything else, but it doesn't happen. So if spirit are talking
Yeah.
to me, why can't they give me an address?
Yeah.
Because I don't get addresses. Why can't they give me the cause of someone's death, which I don't get? I might get if it's tragic, if it's quick, if it's long, if there's an illness, but I very rarely get told from spirit, oh, this person had liver disease or lung cancer, or I might get symptoms around it, but I don't get told. So we have to be very careful when we're teaching our people or having conversations that we're not alienating people at the same time.
Mm.
Because again, we're all going to get things in different ways. You can apply lots of this logic to different parts of evidence, but in reality, it doesn't happen because we're forcing it. It's not becoming organic. We're telling people you must get this, you must get that. But if that person's faculty doesn't lend itself to that, then they're never going to get it. With all the best will in the world, you can have all the intentions in the world to get something, but if your faculty doesn't work that way or you don't resonate with something, then maybe you're not going to get it. It's like when we say, certain spirits don't work with certain mediums because a certain medium might not have the experience or the life knowledge or wisdom or whatever that the spirit person wants to give through them. So if that's the case, if we're saying that, then it has to apply to other areas. So if we're
Yeah.
saying that that spirit person can't work with that medium because they haven't got the same life experience, then at the same time we can't say to that medium, well, you must get that because that's what you should be doing. Well, again, if that medium doesn't have that knowledge bank or that life experience or that frame of reference, then they're never going to get it. So if you're going to apply logic to one thing, you've got to apply it to another. Does it make sense what I'm saying, Glenda? Or am I just rambling?
No, it does. It does. Totally. It makes sense. It's like I have medical background, so I get a lot of medical stuff. So hence why I get how they passed. That's the way I mean, that's what I put it down to.
Yeah. Yeah, so exactly, and that's another good point to make. If you've got an expertise in a particular area, like you said, medical, then that's something you can lean on. Like if I don't know, I might pick up on certain types of medication because I've worked in pharmacy for years,
Mm.
so I know certain types of medication that I have bought through in a reading before. Rather than saying
Yeah.
they're taking painkillers, I can name the painkiller or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's whatever experience we've got is we can lean on that. We can lean on that as well. And that's another thing I was going to say is that as we've all got our different strengths in different areas. So therefore, we are all going to be, because again, I see mediumship as a skill set, and within that skill set, we've got different strengths in different things. So some mediums will be great at getting names. That might just be a particular skill set they've got in mediumship. Some mediums might be really great at bringing through causes of death because for whatever reason they've built that kind of skill set. Some people like myself are great at bringing through the personality and the character of
Mm.
the spirit person because I'm sensitive. So that's one of my strengths in mediumship and bring the evidence through. And I think we just need to keep that in mind as well, is that again, I'm not trying to be John Edwards, Colin Fry, I'm not trying to be these people. I'm trying to be myself, and what I'm working with, what strengths I have in my mediumship and within the evidence that I give. And I think we all need to remember that. And so to answer my question in a really long, the same question I asked you, in a really long-winded way, do I believe that giving a name is important? No, not always, but I think it depends on the situation. So what I mean is, I used to say like before that no, it's not important, but through experience and doing this, sometimes it can be. But that's where I think spirit steps in and gives you the name because they know it's also important. So, for example, just put an example on it, doing a demonstration with our friend Bill, with our fairy godfather Bill.
Hmm.
My first demonstration I did with actually my first public demonstration actually my first one where there's 100 people in the audience. That's a whole other story. And a fellow medium had to come along to watch the den, whatever you want to call it. And her brother had come through, so I was giving her the evidence of her brother, which she understood. And then out of nowhere, I heard the name Terry. Now, I didn't ask for it. I didn't say to Spirit, now give me a name. It just came in. I gave her the name and she burst into tears. And I thought, oh, okay. And it turns out it was the name of her dad who had passed the day before the dem. So in that
Mm. Wow.
case, Spirit knew that she needed that name to tell her that her dad was with her brother in spirit. So in some cases, a name can be important without us knowing it. It can be important. But again, if we keep going on about the intelligence of spirit, and everyone says it, the spirit world are intelligent, they know what we need. Well, if that's then the case, then we have to accept that in that situation, she needs to know that name. But in other situations, the name is not that important.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I think it also depends on how you work. If you're doing platform compared to one-to-ones, that also changes the dynamic.
No, it does absolutely because um, platform is a complete. It's a completely different kettle of fish because on platform you've got that buzzy energy. You've got a load of people sat in front of you. The energy is really built. Whereas in a one-to-one, it compared to that, it can seem flat. The energy can seem flat. It's not necessarily the case, but when you compare the two together, you've got the buzzy energy, a load of people together excited to be there, and then you've got that one person sat in front of you. So that absolutely that can be a very that can be different. The evidence can be different. I know I did a platform dem a couple of weeks ago. I didn't get a single name, not a single name. And then the other night when I did a dem, I got a name or more than one name for every link that I did. So when you look at those
Wow.
kind of situations, you've got to go, well, why? What was the difference in the two? And it can sometimes be the expectation, the sitter of the ex, no, the expectations of the sitter. But sometimes it can just be, well, actually, in that particular dem a couple of weeks ago, the names weren't needed because the other evidence was there to back it up. Whereas the one I did the other night, in my head before I went, I thought, I hope I get a name or two. And I got a name for every single one. So I think we have to just take each reading as it comes, or each dem as it comes, and work with what we're receiving. And come back to what you said earlier on. It's about receiving things or organically and receiving things that are just coming to you. Because come back to what I said before, that sounded like a parrot. Mediumship is about receiving. It's not about going and asking questions, and I don't, and I say that as well. Sometimes at the end of a reading, I'll say, "Have you got any questions?" But generally, I don't have people ask me questions in a mediumship reading because it doesn't become organic. It becomes a Q&A exercise where we're asking spirit, almost demanding spirit give us an answer to a question which they want to know about, and we know that's not how it works. Because the worst thing you can do to
Yeah.
medium is ask them, can spirit give me this, give me that, or prove that? Because what then happens is the logical brain of the medium interferes, it switches on, interferes, and then it becomes a session of logic rather than organic conversation, because the brain starts searching for things rather than allowing spirit to give the answer. And you know what? Sometimes they don't, but that's not what we're here for. We're not here to tell people what to do or to give them the choice that they need to make. They need to make the choice,
Yeah.
not spirit.
That's right.
So we can't. So that's why I don't necessarily let people ask me questions, because
No,
then the
I don't either.
organicness is lost. It's then not spirit talking, it's the medium's brain gets involved and starts to try and search for these answers, which actually then is not coming from spirit. That makes sense?
That's it. Yeah, it does. And you know, the other thing that I want to bring into this without going down that rabbit hole, um, I find because I do readings, I do all, the psychic medium, but I also do the healings. When you're dabbling in all three, I feel like it's almost like you have to spread yourself through all of them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it feels like if you're doing healing after healing after healing after healing, you go to do your mediumship and you kind of go, oh, can I still do this? Or is this going to still work? Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you start doing a lot more of one and drop the other, and then your strengths start to strengthen in that modality. Do you know what I mean? In that, and then it's kind of like, okay, back into mediumship, then you do mediumship, 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 and then you kind of go back to do healings. And it's really weird when you're doing a few different modalities, whereas you see other mediums that just do mediumship full stop, no healings, no
Yeah.
nothing. It's sometimes I kind of go, oh, their mediumship's stronger. But is it stronger, or is it that they're not spreading their energy in different directions? Do you know what I'm trying to say here? It's kind of like
Yeah.
you're putting your focus on different modalities. So then you're not, it's not that you're not as strong in one modality than the other, but you're stretched.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I think the way I look at my mediumship is like an apprenticeship where I'm learning on the job. I mean, I've done the theory and they've been in practice development circles and whatever else, and now I'm out there working professionally. Obviously, I'm still developing. Every time I do a dem, I learn something new, whether it's about myself or about spirit. And so I see that I'm working on the job, and because that's where my focus is, my mediumship is going to get stronger, and I'm going to get deeper into the evidence.
Mm,
Whereas if I start doing other things, not that I lose focus, but then I get what you mean. You then it almost seems like you're not working then on your mediumship
yeah.
development because you're going elsewhere, um, which is fine because that's what you want to do, right? But that's
Mm,
why I guess when it comes to people's development, I would say to people to not focus on too many things at the same time, because what ends up happening, but this is like anything in life, right? Not just mediumship. When you start spreading yourself too thin,
mm-hmm.
you then you don't lose the development, but your development might slow down, and then you you're not practicing that one thing a lot to get better at it, if that makes sense. So I mean, when we first start developing, people want to, you're excited, you want to get involved in mediumship and tarot cards and oracle cards and healing and this and that and the other, but then it can sometimes water down not, I don't know if I want to say water down, but it can just slow your development down a little bit because your focus is not on that one thing. It's like, I don't know, taking driving lessons. If you're not doing driving lessons like every week, or you then decide to go and like learn to ride a bike and then learn to swim, your focus has then been taken off that one thing you're trying to develop on, and that's
Mm,
then going to slow down because you're out here doing other things as well. I mean, that's life in general. No, a lot of us tend to do a lot of things at the same time. 'Cause that's just
mm,
what life is. But I think if you want to get stronger at a particular thing, we all know that we all say, no, practice makes perfect, and that, that kind of fluffy stuff. But in some cases, it's true. So that's what I tend to stick to my mediumship because I know I've got improvements to make within my mediumship.
mm,
So my healing goes on the back burner a little bit because
mm,
my focus is on platform, and I want to get better at it. I want to get more accurate at it. I want to get more information, more evidence coming through. So I try to keep myself just to doing that for the moment. That
mm.
might change if I bring something else into what I'm doing, but with other stuff going on in life anyway, I don't want to be stretched too thin because I don't want. I mean, I also we don't go backwards in our development anyway, but I don't want to lose what I've got because we all know what it's like. We've not done this work for 2 weeks. We're on holiday for 2 weeks. We come back and think, I've had 2 weeks off. Can I still do it? Of course we can, but we still have
Yeah.
that thought, right? And so that's what. So I get what you're saying, which is why I try to stick
Mm.
to that one thing at the
I find that
minute.
it changes because I do all of them. I find that it changes. But even in my healings, I still include my mediumship because
Yeah,
of the way I do my healings, and I mean, everyone does them different. I
yeah,
don't do Reiki. I just don't do Reiki, like I do my own style of healing that spirit has taught me in the way that I've brought a few different modalities into it. But I allow spirit to be involved. I allow
mm,
spirit and loved ones to be involved in the healing. And
yeah,
while I'm doing the healing, I'm going to bring through messages if it comes through. So um, I just feel like it takes a different journey, if you can say it,
yeah.
a different approach to the mediumship. And it's amazing how you can entwine it into all these different things. It's not just set in one specific way of doing mediumship.
No,
So it's
and
very
I think
interesting.
yeah, I think it comes back to, when it comes to giving names. I know people get caught up on it, and I listened to some other people's podcasts recently. It seems to have really affected them for whatever reason, or touched the nerve, or whatever. But we must remember that we are individuals. We work with spirit in our own way. And I mean, another thing to think about when other people out there say you must give a name, I then think, well, if that's the only thing that's important, if I start my reading off with a name, can I just finish my reading then?
Yeah.
If that's all people want, I might as well say, right, okay, I've got your mum here. She's called Mary. She loves you very much. End of reading.
Mm.
No, of course not. Of course not. That's not the end, because we still need to give the essence and the evidence to to back that up. So again, in my opinion, that name is not everything because it might be, you might go, oh my God, that's her name. But then you've got to think, is that all as a sitter? Is that all you want? I'm sure it
Yeah,
isn't. So we have to back it up. So that first name is not everything because you need the other evidence behind it.
that's right.
And and I would also say when it comes to people who say that they give Hannah was also saying on her podcast she was getting comments in her comment section of
Mm.
medium showboating saying, well, I get names. And my opinion is that's lovely you get names, but who do they belong to? Because I personally, if I'm going to give a name, I want it to be either the name of the spirit person, I want it to be a name of the person that's close to them, that's living, or someone that's in spirit with them.
Yeah,
I don't see the value in giving the name of your second
next door
cousin,
neighbor.
yeah, your
Yeah,
next, oh yeah, or your second cousin twice removed who died 25 years ago who you never spoke to.
Yes.
or or the person that serves you in Tesco's yesterday. What is what's the value in that? So you can say you give names all you like, but unless it's relevant to that reading, I then don't see a value in it.
Same.
So if you're giving a name, it's got to be have some relevant. It could even be if you're if you're doing a platform demonstration, you never know who's turning up, right? Because it's not your event, it's the church's event.
Hmm.
So I don't know who's coming. So if they give me a name of the person I'm talking to, fabulous. So
Absolutely.
I had a young lad come through, and when I did a read it, I was doing a platform demonstration. Um, and again, I don't know who's going to the church. Again, it's not my event. And this young lady's this lady's young boy who had died very tragically, very young, came through and said, "Oh, and said Julie." Turns out that was the lady I was speaking to. So to
Wow.
her, she knew that was her son because he called her name out.
Mm.
So again, but in that case, it was needed. But the next
Yeah.
reading I didn't give a name
No,
because it
wasn't needed.
wasn't necessarily needed in the next one.
Yeah.
Because if people can recognize their loved ones through the character, the personality, and the evidence you give, then a name it's lovely to give if you've got it, but it doesn't mean anything if you've already taken and understood everything that the medium was giving you. What does the name then bring in? So again, it very much for me depends on the situation, the circumstance, and whether spirit think it's needed or not. And
Oh,
when it
but
comes,
at the same time, like I would hate to put that pressure on a student. Give me a name. Give me a name.
yeah,
If I was at the beginning of my development and I had a
yeah,
teacher that was demanding names and, demanding this and demanding that, I'd quit. I wouldn't want to do it. I would not want to continue my development. I would leave and find somebody else. So I think that there has to be some sort of gentleness and unfoldment that has to happen within the person. Like everybody's on their own journey. And I think to
mm.
put that much pressure on a person that's starting or pressure on anyone, it's enough to turn someone off.
Well, I agree, but I think it started in the churches because I know that when I first
Mm,
started developing, when I sat in circle, you are given, and I've still got it in my drawer over here, you are
mhm,
given the tick list of evidence to
mm,
give in a particular
that's
order.
that's so
And
bad.
on that is names. So you've
Mm,
got obviously the relationship, the age, what they look like, the conditions of passing, the name. So you that's all on a list of things for you to get.
hmm.
And I don't remember being very good at going back to what I said earlier. I don't remember being very good at giving names. I might give one because one popped in my head, but looking at it, I think that was my logical brain trying to search a name and give it rather than it coming in organically. So I think a lot of that goes back to the old school teachings of here is a tick list exercise. Here is what you need to get this order, bang, 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 to give evidential information. Now, that's in my opinion, that's not correct because I could start with, like I had the other week, I started with a man who was doing an impression of a frog. And literally in my head, he was going ribbit, 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 and I could see him in my head bouncing up and down like a frog. And I, there's part of me which was going to put that aside, but I thought, no, I've got to say it because I keep seeing it. And the woman at the back, who was a medium herself, had put her hand over her mouth, trying not to laugh. I almost wasn't going to take it because she was quite embarrassed. But it was a guy that she once knew who would ribbit in her ear roll. He would do frog impressions. He didn't start with a name. He didn't start with a relationship. He didn't start with how tall he was, how wide he was, what colour hair
Yeah.
he had. He started with a very specific piece of information, which was ribbiting like a frog and doing impressions of a frog. She did not need a name for that person because she
Hmm.
knew from the very first thing that I said who it was. So I didn't have to start with my tick list of things. I didn't need to start with the relationship, the age, the height, how he died. It was that one little bit of evidence that she knew that was him. So a name
Yeah.
wasn't needed in that particular
No.
case. And I think there's another thing to think about is I know a medium or mediums who, and this is one thing that sitters need to think about if you're listening to this, about to go for a reading. You need to think about what's important to you, because for me, what's important is bringing through the essence of a loved one, the character, the personality, because that's what you will know of your person. I don't
Mm.
know them from Adam, never met them, they've never met me, right? They're in spirit. So that's important. So do you want that and no name, or would you rather a medium go through a tick list of evidence with no bringing no essence through and give you 5 or 6 names, and that's your reading? Which would you prefer? Would you prefer that, or would you prefer the feeling, the essence, the character, the personality, and all that
The
behind it,
memories,
the
the
memories,
memories.
and
Yeah,
no name, or would you prefer like a deadpan? Here's your evidence. Boom, 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 boom. They love you very much. We know.
yeah.
There's a whole other story.
Oh my
They love you. They
gosh.
love you very much. Here are 6 dates. Here are 6 names.
They're
Is
so
that what
proud of
you?
you.
Is that what you prefer? I mean, you got
It's
to look at that and
it's
go, what's
just
important
this,
here?
yeah, absolutely. You hear it so often, and it's not something that I want to hear when I go for a reading, that's for sure. You want to feel like your loved one is in the room.
And that's exactly it. But that doesn't always include giving a name, because the other thing I'll say about names is a name isn't unique to a person. It doesn't define a person. A name's we've all got a name, but it doesn't. My David does not define me as a person. My character, my empathy, who I am, that's what defines me. The
Mm.
label you put on me, the name, that doesn't define my character. Um, so that's why I said they're not unique to us, unless it is a unique name. You know, when I've done
Hmm.
before, when I used to do my Facebook lives, remember the Facebook lives that I don't do anymore. Or you can't see a person. I was doing a reading for a lady on Facebook Live, and I had Dominique. Now, Dominica is not a common name to me, but it was put in my head. It was a lady sat next to her behind the screen.
Yeah. Wow.
So again, in that case, Spirit knew that they were going to get me to the right person by giving me that unique name. But again, it
Hmm.
didn't happen. It didn't necessarily happen in the next reading because maybe they didn't think it was needed then. And I think if you look at your readings, coming back to what I just said about the tick list exercise, given 5 names, 5 dates, that same medium does the same thing in every single reading. Now, to me, that's a little bit boring. That's not.
Yeah.
That's
It's
a bit robotic.
robotic. Robotic. Yep.
Whereas my readings are always varied. I've been told a number of times that I'm not showboating here or blowing smoke up my own arse, but to give the examples, is that I've been told when I did a dem in Bognor by myself, I did 8 links that night, and the host lady said, if you look at his readings, all 8 of those readings were completely individual. Not a single reading was the same. And they
Hmm.
shouldn't be, because
Hmm.
your loved ones are different.
Hmm.
Just because they're in spirit, they don't become this mesh of this one ball of energy. No, they've still got their own character and personality. So all your readings should be different because you've got different characters and personalities that you're working with. So no single reading, if you're doing a dem and you're doing 5 readings, those 5 readings shouldn't be the same.
Yeah.
They should be different. So in
Absolutely.
one reading, you might give 5 names and they all fit. The next reading, you might not give any. The reading after that, you might give 2 names.
Hmm.
But that's just how you're working with spirit in that individual spirit in that individual reading. So we need to keep that in mind as well, and not force the names through. That's the worst thing anyone can do. Don't ever force a name through because you said Glenda, it then doesn't become organic. It becomes forced, and it becomes a matter of demanding spirit give you that information. As we know, and as we always say, and all mediums say, we can't demand spirit give something to us that they can't give. Then why are we suddenly demanding names all of a sudden? So again, you've
Hmm.
just contradicted yourself. So
Absolutely.
why are we saying that? So you've got to keep all these things in mind, and again, not beat yourself up too much about it, and just let it flow in whatever needs to come in.
And but at the same time, I kind of wonder why people are triggered so much by this. I kind of just I think,
I th-
why are you triggered? Why is it upsetting you so much? Okay, I understand if you've been doing it for so long and that is the expectation. You've got to a certain point and that's what you expect. And maybe if you're pretty out there within social media, within selling your courses, selling all of that, if you're going to walk the walk, you got to talk the talk. So
Absolutely. But I think it
um,
can be triggering for people
it
because,
can be.
and I think it's because there are mediums out there, which is why I did a video on it on my social media. I didn't do it on this particular episode, on this particular topic, but I did a video yesterday or the day before about the ego and mediumship. And I think there are mediums out there, like the ones who commented on Hannah's. I didn't read the
Mm,
comments, just from what she said in her podcast, that there are mediums who will make you feel like a shit medium because you don't get a name or you
mm.
don't get a certain piece of evidence. And if you don't get those names, you know that you then know that comment is directly aimed at your mediumship.
Yeah.
And then you feel like my mediumship it must be shit then because I'm being told that I should be getting a name and I'm not.
Mm.
So people are always triggered by the things that they're um not they're called out about because that's not the term I want to use because when you call someone out it has negative connotation. But if you're not doing something that you're told that you should be doing, and if you don't do it, you're not good enough, then that is going to trigger you. Like someone said to me, the mediums don't who don't get addresses are shit. That might trigger me slightly because I don't get addresses.
But do they get it in every reading?
But that's the thing, they don't say that though.
No,
And
they
that's why I
don't. But
talk.
this,
That's why I talked about the ego and people need to just shut your mouth. Just let people get on with
what,
what you're doing.
why you need to comment, why you need to go and
Why
put
do you
your
need to
shit
comment?
down.
Yeah, because if you're not doing
It's
it,
like, why do you need to prove you're better?
no, exactly. And as Hannah said, it's not a competition. This is not about
It's not.
this is not RuPaul's Drag Race in the mediumship world. This
It's
isn't
turning
the
into
race.
it.
I know the bitching and the backstabbing.
Fucking hell.
This is not a race to number one medium here, because what does that look like? Because to some people, as I said before, a great medium can be someone who brings through the essence, the character, the personality, the memories, what's going on now. But to the next person, a great medium could be the person who gives all the names and specific dates.
Mm.
But as we know, not everyone does that. Everyone is different. So we're it seems to be a competition and a race that no one's ever going to win because you can't define what a great medium is. And there are people out there who call themselves great mediums who I've watched, and I would say, actually, you're not a great medium,
A
in my opinion.
natural, a
In my
natural
opinion,
medium. I'm a natural medium. Aren't we fucking all?
it's not. Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, because if we say it's available to everybody, then surely it's part of all, and it's part of
We're
all.
all
It's then we're all
natural.
natural. Yeah.
We're all
So
born like this. We're all born like this. We've all got the ability to do it if we tap into it, if we all harness the gifts that we've got. Our brain and our mind and our subconscious is so powerful. We've got the ability to do it. Everybody has. It's just whether or
mm,
not, is it our path to go down by? Is it something that we're interested in? Is there fear around it? So many questions.
there are a lot of
And
questions.
David and I aren't the experts. We don't
No.
we don't say that we are. We always talk about this is just our opinion. And hey, we listen to a lot of podcasts, and I'm sure other people listen to a whole lot of podcasts. And
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of shit out there. But again, it has to be up to that person. Use a discernment. Like, why why do you need a name?
Yeah, and but I think the thing is as well is one thing to help develop a medium. Maybe this is something that I need to give advice to myself or even to you, Glenda, or whatever.
Yeah.
Is when you're thinking about new evidence to that you want to receive, or let's just take names for example. Trying to get it in some kind of to make some kind of sense here. Is that although I don't give names in every reading, I'm open to giving names. And I think that's the key here for anyone that's developing is instead of saying to yourself, I don't give names or I can't give names, say, I would like to give a name and I'm open to if it comes through. Because we always talk about intention, don't we? We talk about intention,
Mm-hmm.
Glenda.
Mm-hmm.
And if we are saying we can't do something, then we've set the intention, say it's never going to happen. So instead of saying I can't give names or I don't give names, it's saying, again, I would like to give a name and I'm open to it. Because then if it comes through, but as soon as you say to yourself, and this is not even just through mediumship, anything in life, you say you can't do something in life, then you're never going to do it because
Absolutely.
you've already told yourself you can't do it. And I
Yep.
could say that myself with when it comes to causes of death or addresses. In my head, I say to myself, oh, I can't give an address. I'll just start. My geography is rubbish. Like I said before, my sense direction is awful. But if I actually keep saying that to myself, I'm never going to get an address because I can have all the because my
Yeah.
intention is the opposite of what it should be. But if I
Yeah.
say, actually, I'm open to giving an address, then it will happen. Like when there's one occasion I was driving to an event, and in my head I was saying to Spirit, right, in this event this evening, I don't normally get addresses, but I'd like to start receiving addresses actually. And Spirit would come back to me and said, well, how about we start working on your relationships instead, or do that first? So okay, I've been told here. And then I think the second link that I did that night, I gave a street name, I gave an
Yeah.
address.
Yeah.
Never happened again. That was it. But
I mean,
in the
I've
last
given
couple,
it, but I don't give it in everyone.
no, but in
No,
the last,
I've gone and said that in the same thing where I've like, okay, where you work, I don't know where you work, I know nothing about you, but if you look up, there's this written up above you. Oh my God, there is. It's like
yeah.
it doesn't happen in all of them. Is that going to matter in the next person's reading? It's not.
Mm.
It's the
Because then
same as names.
saying that, but now I am working on my relationships with spirit, and in the past few demos that I've done, every relationship that I've got has been spot on. So I think there's something to be said for spirit knowing what we need to work on at what particular part of our development. So the longer I keep working on my or paying attention to the relationships that I have, rather than saying I've got a maternal figure or a paternal figure, I'm able to say, right, I've got mum here or mother-in-law, or I've got uncle, or I've got a friend, and that's working for me. And
Mm,
hopefully that will stay as it is. And once I've got that consistent, then maybe the next step is that spirit will then say, right, now let's start working on your addresses.
yeah.
But then again, saying that, I don't know if that will happen because again, I'm not paying attention to anything when I'm out walking or out in the car. I'm not paying attention to street roads, street names. I'm paying attention to my sat nav. Whereas if
Well,
I was a
best you
taxi,
start.
exactly, but if I was a taxi driver or a postman, I'd be able to give addresses because that's part of my frame of reference. That's part of my life experience. That Albert Best I mentioned him before, a Scottish
Mm,
medium back in the day, he was a postman. So in every um, reading that he did, he gave an address. I don't know if he gave a name in every address, in
mm.
every reading, I should say. So I don't know if he gave a name in every reading, but I certainly know he gave an address in every reading. But that's because his life experience lent itself to that.
And then it comes back to, is that our needs and our wants?
That's true. But we'll come to that in a second. The last thing I want to talk about with names before we come to our expectations and the sister's expectations, just to kind of not put to bed, but just to kind of address skeptics' um, views on names, right? Let's take common names like John and Mary and
David.
David and Paul and whatever the common names are, Williams, that Charles, that kind of thing. Now, mediums are beat up for giving common names like that. And I have given names like that. The other night I gave a name. I said I've got this. I gave the evidence of the lady, and I said there's an MAR name coming in with her, like Mary, Margaret, that kind of name. The man took it. He knew exactly it was his grandmother, and said, "Yeah, by the way, her name was Mary." Right.
Mm,
So I do say to the audience, look, if I've got a common name coming in, I will say to the audience, this is a common name I know, but I'm going to give it because I'm hearing it. and I haven't asked for it. When I'm doing a reading, I never ask for a name. It either comes
Mm.
in or it doesn't, and I'm not bothered if it doesn't, right? Because all the other evidence backs it up. And so, if I do receive a common name like John or Mary or William, I'm not going to say to my spirit team, "Don't you dare give me that because it's a common name." Of course, I'm not going to do
No.
that. They're giving it to me for a reason.
Yeah.
So, skeptics might say, "Oh, John's a you could have made that up." Why would I make it up? I'm hearing it, so I'm giving it. And that
Mm.
name John could mean the absolute world to that client because that was their dad's name or their
That's right.
granddad's name or whoever, or for God forbid, their child's name.
Mm.
So if I would say, if I'm hearing a name, whether it's common or not, I'm going to give it. And I think sometimes we can't win because if we don't give a name, then we're not good enough. But if we give a name and it's a common name, then we're making it up. And so you've got to
Mm-hmm.
go, "Do you know what, bollocks to it. I've just got to give what I get. End of story. That is it." But we also must remember, and I've said this before, is that in certain families, those common names are common. They are handed down through the family. So if I
Mm-hmm.
was to go for a reading, I would expect to hear William. I would expect to hear Charles. I would expect to hear Frank. I would expect to hear John. I would expect to hear Elizabeth. I would expect to hear Mary. They are all common names, but they are all names that have been handed down through my family.
Mm.
I'm David Peter. My granddad was Peter William. His dad was William Charles. His dad was William Charles. His dad was Charles. So I would expect to hear those names. So a
Yeah.
skeptic said to me, "Yeah, but any media will say that to you." Yes, but those names mean something to me
That's right.
because they might be common to you, but to me, they're important names in my family. I can't take the amount of Franks or Francis that I've got on my Irish side of my family. I can't tell you. There are
Yeah.
so many. um, and so I would that there might be a common name to someone, but to me, I need to hear that because I know that name is an important name in my family.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'd say to people is whatever name you're hearing, do give it.
Yeah. Good
As
luck
long as
anyone.
long
Good luck anyone reading for me because they're Bosnian names. So
but that is also a great point, Glenda, is that there are some names we're just not going to get because
not a chance.
it doesn't sound phonetically correct to. So a Bosnian name is not going to sound phonetically correct to me. So my mind's never going to grab it. I might
No.
get something similar to it, but in a million years, I'm not going to get that name. Why I got Dominica, I don't know. I can't answer that question. It's just I heard it in my head. Well, to me, it's quite easy. Dominica. I learnt Spanish for a while, so not that it's a Spanish name necessarily, but phonetically it's similar. Um,
Mm.
but like my other half is Polish, but even if his family come through, I'm never going to get that Polish name
Exactly.
because it's not familiar to me. Their alphabet is completely different to the English alphabet or the British alphabet.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. And it depends where you live in the world as well. I'd like to hear a Scottish or a UK medium. I'm going to put it right out there now. Get one of my family members' name. If you say you can get names and you're so good and you preach that you're a great medium that you get
mm,
names, give me a reading and give me a name.
exactly,
There, there you go.
exactly.
I'm putting
You got
that dare out.
if you yeah, exactly, if you're going to talk the talk, you've got to walk the walk.
Talk.
If you can say you can get them,
Absolutely.
get them.
Go and come,
No,
come and do me.
yeah, show us if that's the case. But
Mhm.
if you don't but if you don't give me a name in a reading, then you don't. I am not precious about it because I understand the mechanics of it and how it works. So
Yeah.
if we, I think I've talked about all the points I had down that I had written down there. I think I have. Um, but last thing I want to talk about then is the expectation that we have versus the expectation that a sitter has when it comes to receiving names in a reading. So if you were to go for a reading, Glenda, what would your expectations be of a medium? Are you bothered if you get names or not? Would you
Doesn't
expect
bother
them?
me. I don't because, again, my names are unusual and I don't expect anybody to get the names. So, again, I'm not bothered by the names. Um, it would have to be the essence of the person, the personality, the way that they were, what they were like in life. Um, that's more about it. And to me, it's about that proving life after death. Tell me what's happening in my life that my family member is seeing. What is happening, that sort of thing. That to me is important. Um, even my thoughts, because spirit know your thoughts. And I'm big on this sort of thing. When I do my mediumship, I will bring through what you've been talking about, what you've been doing, the things you've been thinking about, the things you've been saying. They're kind of my number one. Um, and very personal moments and memories that you have. That's important to me. So that's more important than any name that you can give me.
And I would definitely agree, I would agree with that. I would agree with that because I know that as long as the medium gives me again their character, the personality, as you said, the essence, the memories, know what's going on now, that solidifies to me who you are. I like to quite like the relationship, to be honest, as well, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, because that will help back it up. So yeah, their names to me
No,
um, aren't that important. And
no.
I think when you go for a reading, this is for anyone that is a sitter and goes for readings, you have to think about yourself, what is important? Is a name really important? Because if you're going to go to see a medium expecting names, you're going to come away highly disappointed because
Mm.
I don't know that many mediums who give really specific names
No.
that belong to the person who's coming through or to someone that's close in the family. I hear mediums say, "This is the name I've got," and the person says, "No, I can't take it." And then the medium says, "Well, it could be someone around the family." I don't want the name around the family. I want the name in the family,
Mm.
which is why I'm conscious that I don't just give names willy-nilly, right? Because I know that that the sitter needs to hear something that's more specific than that,
Yeah. I usually get
more
their
closer than
partner,
that.
their
Yeah,
husband, or the kids' names. That's kind of around the family that I get.
absolutely. Yeah, not the postman that worked in the post
Mm.
shop in the post office 25 years ago. That why if spirit intelligent, why would they do that? So to me,
Yeah.
that's not an impressive name. If you're going to give a name, it needs to be relevant to what's happening now and to the family. So if you're a sitter, I'd always go to a reading with an open mind and want to feel the essence of your loved one and not expect to get names. Because one, it puts pressure on the spirit person, it puts pressure on the medium, and actually it can leave you disappointed. And please don't think that just because a medium doesn't give you a name doesn't mean they're shit. Does not mean they're shit. Does not mean they're rubbish. It just means that that's just not how they're working with that spirit person at that time. And I think we just need to change the mindset these days of sitters or
Mm.
what clients, whatever name you want to put on them, to be more open-minded and to not think of someone of a medium being rubbish because they don't give you what you want to hear. What we always say is spirit give you what you need to hear. And if you
Yeah.
can understand everything the medium has said without a name, then actually, do you know what? In my opinion, that name is not important. It might be nice to have to back everything up, but if that medium's given you 20 pieces of information that you understand, the name of your dad is not going to make a difference because you've
Mm.
understood the essence and everything else that person, that medium has told you. So let's
Yeah.
try and get away from, unless you give me a name, I'm not going to believe it. Well, then you're in for a long time of, what's the word I'm looking for? Disappointments, because it's not always going to happen. And the worst thing, sitter, that you can do to a medium is say to them, "Can you give me a name?" Because, like what I said before, what happens is that medium's logical part of their brain switches on because when I say switch on, when we're doing a mediumship reading, we switch that logical part of our brain off so it doesn't
Mm.
interfere. So whatever comes through into our mind is purely from spirit. So as soon as you say, give me a name, the medium's brain switches, the logical brain switches on and starts searching for all these names and then come up with Steve, let's say. And that's probably not relevant to you whatsoever, but it's a name that that medium is familiar with because they've searched for it in their mind rather than allowing spirit just to drop a name into the mind of the medium.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I would say. The last thing to finish off with, I think, Glenda, is what are our as a medium? What's our expectations? What's your expectation when you do a reading? What do you expect?
From spirit.
Yeah,
Um, to be nice to me. No, I don't know. I kind of just, it depends. It depends. It depends what kind of day I'm having. I kind of go with the flow. And if I'm having a really tired day or a shit day and you're kind of like, oh my God, I've got to do all these readings today, I'll sit there beforehand and say to spirit, okay, I need you to bring through this. I need you to kind of, keep me in line with the flow because I can get easily distracted. Um, I kind of set an intention with spirit. I don't demand.
yeah,
I set that intention before I start, and I just kind of go, okay, spirit, let's just be very specific with how you passed, be specific with um the details that you bring through, like what you're showing me. If I don't understand it, bring it through in a different way so that I understand it, so that I can bring it through so the sitter understands it. I think I just talk to spirit like I talk to a friend. So that's the way I have a relationship with spirit. I'm not demanding and I don't say, I want this and I want that and I want this. Sure, I've done it in the past when I felt really shit and I'm just like, okay, we got to get this over the line. But I think it's more about that the connection is strong, that they come close. That's my expectation, that they come close, that they blend with me, that I'm able to feel their energy, that I'm able to feel their essence, what kind of person they were, that their impressions upon me are strong, so that I am able to deliver that clearly to the sitter, because we all know it's all about the feelings. It's all about what we're seeing and tasting and hearing. So I ask that my senses are opened up and heightened so that I can feel them and then I can deliver it in a way that the sitter understands it. I think
yeah.
that's what
Mm.
I ask for. Um, and that what happens today is that the healing happens, whether it's healing for us, whether it's, for the sitter or the spirit person or whatever that they're coming for, that they receive. That's what I kind of put out.
Absolutely. And I had another medium say this as well, which I always try to remember, is that we as mediums need to be satisfied with what spirit want us to give, not what
Yes,
we want to give.
that's right.
So I think it comes back to being organic, allowing spirit to give us what they need to give us in that time, and not what we are demanding of them to give. No, how do I put it? And not demand that they give us what we think that
We need.
the client needs to give,
Yeah,
or that we need to
that's
give,
right.
because then it then becomes a logical thing, not a natural thing, because then we're
That's right.
as soon as you say I think we should do, I think about this, I think, then your logical brain is engaged, not your spirit one.
Yeah,
So we as mediums need to not beat ourselves up all the time, because we do it all the time. We beat ourselves up, our own worst enemies. But we need to remember that we need to be satisfied with what spirit want us to give, not with what we want to give. So we might want to always give a name. We might always want to give a death cause, a cause of passing, or this, that, the other. But actually, it's not up to us what the client needs to give. what we need to
what
give
the
the client.
spirit
It's up
person
to what the
needs to
spirit,
give.
it's what the spirit person wants to
That's right.
give.
The spirit person's not going to talk about a tragic passing because it's only going to upset the sitter.
Yeah.
They're not going to
So
go into detail. And to me, I don't want to go into detail because you can see when the sitter's getting upset. I have seen mediums give absolutely graphic details of a passing, and there is no fucking need for it.
no,
There is no need
absolutely.
for it.
And I've seen it, and we've all
It's
seen it.
terrible.
There were
It's
clips on
terrible.
YouTube of certain medium in a theatre giving um, information on how many times this poor person was stabbed, that
Yeah.
where they were stabbed, there's blood everywhere. And I'm like, I mean,
What the hell?
if people could see
Again,
the eyes rolling to the back of my head right now, I'm like, oh, God's sake.
it comes back to the ethics and everything that we always talk about, like do no
Yeah,
harm. You're doing harm right
absolutely.
there.
Yeah,
Opening your friggin' mouth and spitting that venom out is doing harm. There is just no need for it.
no, absolutely. Absolutely. But there you
So,
go. I feel that that's probably a good place to end this episode. And I think we've got into some deep conversation there. So hopefully this is going to help some of you guys out there who are developing as mediums, or have thought, do I give names? Should I give names? Am I good enough if I don't give a name, and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully it's helped. I certainly feel this is better than the first episode that we tried to record of this, because we did record an evidence episode a while ago, and I listened back to it and I thought, it didn't. We didn't. I don't think well, at least me, I didn't quite get across what I wanted to. So I'm keeping it in the archive or in the trash bin. So hopefully, Glenda, when we listen back to this one, this will be a lot better. Because
hey,
there's another episode as well we put in the bin because I just didn't. Yeah, it just wasn't quite right.
but I just think that as we go along, it's all about growth. You know what I mean? No one's
Yeah,
perfect. We're just starting on this little journey together, and we're seeing where it takes us. And I'm enjoying it. You're enjoying it. Our viewers are, our listeners are enjoying it. They keep coming back, so that's all that matters. And as long as it just keeps flowing organically, there's my word, organically. So
yeah,
maybe someone needs to take that away. Just be organic. That's all that matters.
that's it. Absolutely. Well, thank you as always, Glenda, for your company here today, as always, and this little chat and your views and opinions on things as well, because it's important.
Yay, no, anytime. We're always here. And then we've got if you want to send in some questions and things like that, we're open to talking about them. I do have a question here, but I don't know if we're going to have time to talk about it now. Maybe we can just start a little
We could, yeah, we could do it.
a little
Do another.
snippet, or do
I
you
would
want
do
to
it.
have a go?
We can do another separate mini episode on it if there's a question. So we can finish this one, and then we can turn that question into another episode. How about that?
Sounds good.
Marvellous. Well, thank you as always, listeners, for joining us in the Spirit Lounge today. We hope you found it an enjoyable experience. And we'll see you again in the Spirit Lounge sometime soon.
Thank you so much for joining us in the Spirit Lounge today. We hope you enjoyed the discussion.
Yes, and if there's a spiritual topic you'd like us to discuss, or if there's a spiritual question you'd like our input into, then please send those topics and questions to us at glenda-marie1@hotmail.com, and we will get to them as soon as possible.
Lastly, if you could like and share this podcast, as well as leaving us a comment or review about what you thought, then that would really help us out and we'd be very grateful.
We would indeed. But it's bye from me.
And it's bye from me.
Join us again soon in the Spirit Lounge.